Now, a report has found that people as diverse as Sir Tony Blair and Harry Enfield have been no-platformed by university students. The Oxford Union Debating Society rejected the former Prime Minister because of fears he could face protests from people who considered him a war criminal, just because he is. Harry Enfield, meanwhile, was knocked back after he defended using blackface to portray Nelson Mandela in a play. The report is from the Higher Education Policy Institution think tank, and the author, Josh Freeman, joins me now. Josh, hello, welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks for joining us. What are the main findings of the report?
So we're all aware of sort of classic no platforming. People get invited and then they get rejected, or they get turned down for whatever reason. But this report found that there's some bigger issue, which we called quiet no platforming. So students are so worried about the backlash that's going to result, or the embarrassment or the controversy that will come from inviting controversial speakers, that they're not even being considered. They're being turned down at the earliest opportunity, and they're never really being invited. This backlash gets so serious and so large. We know students faced abuse for the speakers that they invited. There were protests in cases at LSE and Cambridge. This is a big deal for students, and they're thinking, well, why bother invite these controversial speakers if it's going to involve them in all of these issues?
So they're heading off at the pass. They're cancelling people before they can be cancelled, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Should the Oxford Union really be turning down the chance to hear from a former Prime Minister? Isn't university meant to be a place where young adults can openly swap ideas and have robust, proper debates? I mean, as much as Tony Blair might be a controversial figure to a lot of people, and as a checkered history in government, he oversaw a huge period of change and is hugely significant in British politics.
Absolutely. I should say it wasn't the Oxford Union that no-platformed Tony Blair, it was Cardiff. But we're absolutely aware of this as a cultural change. I mean, reports by the Higher Education Policy Institute have shown that students are just caring less about free speech. They do find it more important to protect the culture at universities, and for them, putting more critical figures in universities is seen as less of a priority. What's needed really is a cultural change in universities, a switch to being sort of more open to hearing alternative opinions, even if those opinions do make you uncomfortable.
And how do you think this cultural change could be brought about?
So there is this bill, and the government has made a start with the freedom of speech bill going through Parliament, but it needs to be strengthened. At the moment, all it's doing is tackling no platforming in the classical sense that we know, basically making it illegal. That's great, but it's a problem if most platforming is quiet no platforming. And there's a worry here that if students are worried that no platforming or not inviting controversial speakers gets them involved in a legal case or some kind of complaint, they may well never invite these speakers in the first place. They'll probably just avoid the embarrassment and go with the people they think are more safe. What's needed are provisions to support students, but also to make this less of a drama and make this sort of more normal that these events occur.
And do you think do you think there ever are legitimate reasons for no platforming people? I mean, we've seen very controversial figures speaking at student unions in the past.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people I spoke to stress the importance of bringing people for the sake of a debate. I mean, I won't name names, but I'm sure there are some people who you can bring and would just talk without any basis to it. That's not who these people are. These are people who can make an important contribution. They've been selected and considered because they can make an important contribution. People like Tony Blair, people like Alex Salmond, people like Harry Enfield, who have interesting things to say, but something in their past or some comment they've made or view they held is preventing that discussion from happening. And that prevents students gaining access to those most critical and thought-provoking speakers who would be provoking those most interesting conversations.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of what we consider to be woke culture and the restrictive, puritanical censorship of ideas and people. I mean, it starts at universities, it's seeded at universities, and then it spreads out through the rest of culture. Are you worried that things are going to get worse? That more and more people will be cancelled by universities and then cancelled, across wider society?
Well, we know this has been an issue in universities for a while. There is a mismatch between what's happening in universities and the wider population. Most people are not as supportive of that in wider culture. But absolutely, this needs to start in universities. Absolutely, universities need to get a grip on this and be very clear, as they are starting to, that students need to be open to different ideas. So universities themselves need to show students how to run these events. They need to also make it clear that students should be holding these events. And those, there are students who really are passionate about holding free speech events, are really interested in bringing in these most controversial, thought-provoking speakers. I met them. They really exist in universities, but they don't feel that there is that environment there for them right now. That has to change. And I think universities and the higher education bill can play a role in that too.
Great. I'm going to bring in the panel on this. Lewis, did you go to university?
The difference is, I mean, it's a lovely idea, but this illustrates everything that's wrong with this country. Is that the university system is controlled by a central state, that they're going to pass a law to force speakers on a college campus. They're telling the colleges the college has no independence, or the students are being forced. You just let when I went to university in the 1970s, we had a guy come to our school. He was the president of the United States Communist Party, who had spent a number of years in prison as a traitor to the United States. Horrible situation. In the 1950s, during the McCarthy era. But by the 1970s, he was an invited guest onto our campus.
And now he's probably writing the policy. So,
yeah.
I mean, Sajila, what do you make of all this?
I think this is really worrying, because the university is a place where you learn to basically debate, to kind of like win your argument. And what we've got is it's both sides, left, right. So let's not make this mistake. No one's absolved from this. They fall into the trap of that hypocrisy, like, oh, but we don't like this, we're going to cancel them. We don't like, they're going to cancel them. No, listen to opposing views. If your argument is so strong, then you can win that over, but listen to what the opposing views are. You need to be challenged. We all need to be challenged.
Yeah.
But you cannot be forced, Sajila. That's the problem, and that's what's going on right now. You can't force people to be open-minded. You can't force people to prioritize freedom of speech, which we do, above touchy-feely feelings, which the young kids.
But these are like important, famous people. Right? I had a university gig, but every now and again I do a university gig, and they loved me, right? And then I basically liked a couple of things, gender critical stuff, liked on Twitter, and this guy lost his stuff that was at the talk that I did at the university, and said that I thought you were inclusive, and I said I am inclusive, and it's like, well, I see that you like so and so, and I see you like, and this is ridiculous. I'm not going to get booked again.
Yeah. So you're not going to get booked, but sorry.
Oh well, yeah. I was just going to move on. Anyway, Josh, thanks so much for joining us and giving your perspective, and I hope the bill goes through in some sort of workable form and brings some more freedom to university campuses.